Hi, Sophie.
Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. We did just chat a minute, but it's actually snowing outside, which is it snowing where you are?
No, I was just going to say it's absolutely pouring here. Yeah, my partner woke up. He was like, "Is it snowing?" I was like, "No, we don't ever get snow in like Exeter. If we do, it's like on the outskirts.
Yeah.
Never."
Oh, well, I hope you get the snow day. But how are you?
I'm good, my love. I'm feeling okay today. Hopefully, as the day goes on, I'll feel a bit better as well. But
Yeah.
just a bit of a duller morning, I suppose. I think my mood's always affected by like the sun. So like, hopefully, if it comes out, I'll feel a bit better.
Yeah, I always think that. I always say, actually, I was one of those people who's meant to be born in like a climate that's above 25 degrees because I just don't bird well in winter.
Yes, honestly, I totally feel that. Me and my partner were traveling. That was just like our life.
Yeah.
And like since lockdown, we just came back because we felt like that was the right thing to do. And we got stuck in Samoa for 2.5 months when the lockdown happened, which was a way better situation than being in the UK.
Mm.
But I just genuinely feel like I'm supposed to be living my life on the southern hemisphere somewhere, but I'm here. But we make it work. We make it work.
If you
It's
get the
fine.
opportunity, take me with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so let's get into it. Like, I start most episodes with just a bit of background, and I do that because I think people who have built a social following and built a platform online, we kind of see the version of you that is now maybe a few years ago or why you're storytelling in the way, but we never actually see like the where you grew up, what was family like what's driven you to the storytelling point. So give us a bit of the background.
God, how much time we got? So I've always struggled as like a teenager, as a kid, like with my weight. And I am literally like best sorry, my cats are just very vocal this morning. I have always struggled like with my weight and I adore my mum. Like she's my best friend. But she was a huge victim to like the diet industry. And it's so apparent like when you look at it now, but I definitely got caught up with that as a teen because all I ever saw my mum doing was dieting. So I really like struggled with that. In terms of like my
I'm just going to pick out things as you go because by the way, we also just said like we're going to get really emotional talking about
yeah.
this a lot, and I think a lot of women face this. But what do you mean by struggled with your weight?
So like as a teen, I was always like the bigger one of the friend group. Like I kind of like bounced around a few friend groups. I just felt like I kind of got on with a lot of people. But out of every single, my cat's got my hair, if you can see that. But out of all of the friend groups that I was in, I was always the biggest. I just was naturally bigger as a kid, and I think it kind of like stemmed from that, which was quite a tough thing to deal with, I think, at quite a young age when you're seeing every single other person in a much thinner body than you, and you're thinking, well, why am I like the odd one out? My family was like, we're so close, like we are so close, we've always been so close, but I think you're following your like parents' footsteps, and whatever my mum was going through, I would just inevitably pick up. Like she would one day, like 1 month, be doing Atkins, and then the next month be doing like Weight Watchers, or Slimming World, and then I would like 13 would be going to like school, and I'll have just had two. I'll have like tried to cut out all carbs, and I'd get back and I'd have like two tortilla wraps. I remember shoving them like in my face, like I couldn't even breathe. I was just shoving them. I was trying to like hide it while I was in the kitchen, and I kind of like had this little realization, but it wasn't anything like pivotal. It was just, oh my God, what am I doing? And that's the first moment I realized that I'd been really affected by like diet culture or like kind of my environment. So that was really like tricky for me to kind of like navigate. And ever since then, I've just been really in a really weird place with my relationship with my body and my food. Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. And I was like, do you know what? My cousin was like bigger as well when he was younger. And he got his personal training qualification. And he was like, look, just come to the gym with me. I think I was like 16 at the time, maybe 17. And he's like, look, just come to the gym with me. Let's just see how it goes. And oh my God, I loved it. And he kind of gave me this spiel about like, look, you want to be like encompassing this with like healthy eating, because coming to the gym, it won't really be beneficial for you if you want to see results, which I did want to see. My cat's fighting. My God, I feel like they're going to be the main characters of the show.
It can be a background narrative.
Literally can. Jumping on each other. But basically, I remember going home because I felt like I'd got the support from him. And then I went home and the first thing I did was order a Chinese. And it was because I was like hiding that part of myself from like what I wanted. And then he messaged me because my mum had like told him, because I said that I wanted to kind of like start on this fitness journey. And he was like, I've heard you've had a Chinese, da, 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 da. And I think my mum was trying to help, but at the same time, I felt like I'd been like told on. But yes, so basically from then on, my cousin really helped me to try and like stop my like over excessive like eating habits. And unfortunately, over the years, like I got my personal training qualification myself, like I lost a lot of weight. I felt really good in my body. And it's only been in the last couple of years when I've like really analysed what I was going through. I couldn't walk past a reflection without looking at myself. I would actually get really annoyed at people in the street if they didn't check me out. And that was something that I had to admit to myself, because I became that self-absorbed. I wasn't ever a nasty person. Like I've always been, I always say I'm a pretty lovely person. And when I got my PT qualification, started working at Virgin Active and was training my clients, we all had an amazing time. But for myself, I wouldn't treat myself the way I was treating my clients. And yeah, I would get annoyed if people didn't check me out. And I think that's a big telling, a kind of like how I've felt like I only needed validation like from external sources, which is really sad. But that's kind of like what I had gotten to. And I then went away and did Camp America. I really wanted to travel, like I just really, really wanted to do it. And I went to a Girl Scout camp in Maryland. It's in the middle of nowhere, like the huts were on stilts sort of thing. And it was an experience, but it was a really like humbling experience. But unfortunately, there wasn't like much food that I could have at camp that was really suited for me because I was veggie at the time. And I looked back at the photos and I lost a lot of weight while I was there. And then I came back, and that was in 2015. I came back, started working at Virgin Active again, started getting back into my weightlifting. My relationship with my body was still very like misunderstood, like by myself. And I took 2016 off of like traveling, didn't do any traveling. And then in 2017, I was like, you know what? I really want to go back to camp again. So a friend referred me to a different camp, and it was like a boy-girl camp. So it was like one side of the camp was boys, one side of the camp was girls. And that's where I met my fiance, and he is literally the best thing ever. And I always said I wanted to meet someone who, if I said, right, should we go to the Bahamas? He'll go, yeah, let's go, let's make it work. And he was just very much in that traveling mindset as well. And we just ended up traveling for years and years. So we went and did obviously the camp together in 2017. Then I went and did a ski season with him in France. And then I went to camp again with him as a couple like the year after. Then we went to live in New Zealand for a year and a half. And I really feel like all of that traveling really, in a way, healed my relationship with my body, because I wasn't waking up, I wasn't looking in the mirror, I wasn't going to the gym, I wasn't seeing what pump I'd got. I was like literally, I was experiencing life, and that really distracted me from like my own head. And I was really grateful for those experiences. Obviously, no days are perfect, but for me, traveling saved me, like in a way, because I got to experience living outside of my own head, and that was really, really important for me. We did amazing things, and I've always struggled with my weight. And when I became a PT, I did become very, very slim, very like lean and toned, but obviously nothing is ever like good enough. And so I did definitely still struggle with like my body dysmorphia, like while I was traveling, but it wasn't as prevalent in like my brain. And it wasn't like the forefront. It was kind of fleeting, but it was still there. And it wasn't until lockdown happen. Like I said before, like we got stuck in Samoa for 2.5 months during COVID because we had just lived in New Zealand and we were supposed to do a big world trip, like to go work in like Hawaii and like a hostel and all of that, and we didn't end up making it because they locked everything down. So that we were next to a cafe that literally, like, me and my partner are vegan, and it was a full vegan cafe that we couldn't believe it. And they did like noodles and like nachos and smoothies, like big, huge, like chunky monkey smoothies. And like we were just like indulging every single day. And I think when we slowed down from traveling, it really made me kind of like focus on that food aspect again. So that felt a little bit like triggering for me. And when we came back to the UK, we were never supposed to stay in the UK. It was supposed to be Australia, but then Australia had those like restrictions. We just never made it. We just never made it back. Nothing was like the right timing. And my fiance is now training to be a stuntman. So he is like, I need to stay in the UK to be able to get everything and really focus on the training. So we were like, let's just do that. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try and focus on how I'm feeling and share that online and see if anybody else, because I started to feel alone again, because again, we'd like slowed down. I was in this little flat in the middle of this like town that wasn't very nice, and like I couldn't even walk onto my balcony without someone shouting up at the balcony, like, and it was quite a scary time. So I was stuck inside for like 6 months, and that's when like the Christmas lockdown happened, and I was diagnosed with endometriosis like within that time, and I put on like 4 stone in like 2 months, and I did not recognize myself, like mentally, emotionally, physically. I lost myself. I lost my confidence. I lost my voice. I lost my personality. I couldn't have a conversation with someone without arguing. I couldn't, like, I was really struggling. And it was the first time I'd actually realized what a real struggle was. Like, I was struggling all of those years before, but I was still able to get up and do life. And during like that lockdown period, it was, oh my God, it does make me really emotional thinking about it. I just think, bless her, like she did not know what was about to happen. So I started I was like, do you know what? I really want to start helping people. When we first moved into this flat, I was still like trying to train people online. I was feeling really good. I was like, these next 6 months, I'm going to get through the winter. We're going to train with my clients. I'm going to feel like really, really good. And I got shared on Misguided's page. So one of the photos, I used to post a lot of like mirror photos, and it got shared on Misguided's page. And I swear it was like one of their highest liked photos, because I tried to stalk and see like, and I'm sure it had such an amazing response. And I gained 35,000 followers in one night just from that post. So I was thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like I can really spread the message here that can help people. I can do my online PT, and I can also have social media to really kind of like help with that. I felt really positive. And then I got up to like 50,000, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I can really start making this a business. And then I woke up one morning and I couldn't get into my account. And basically it turns out I got hacked. And I was being held at ransom for £2,500. So I stupidly, but we'll learn, put my number in my Instagram bio for any brands and stuff to contact me. So when I got hacked, I had this, it was a Turkish number, we found out. I had this person message me on my WhatsApp saying, hello, my friend. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And they sent a screenshot of like a story that I'd put up. It was like, I shared my own post on my story, but then when they screenshotted it, all of the text was in Turkish. And I was like, oh, okay. Long story short, this lasted about 2 weeks, and they were sexually threatening me. The stuff that they said to me was vulgar. Like, I got the police involved, but there was just no way of trying to like track them. They basically hacked into, I was like a hacker's dream. Like I had all of the same passwords. I feel like a lot of people do as well, but they used that password in my email, managed to get into my email and divert the alert messages from Instagram. And I just felt like as my life was starting, and I felt positive about living and kind of like working on this life in the UK, and I became paranoid. So paranoid. I was emotionally exhausted. My binge eating came back in full force. Like I would be gagging as I was eating, but I couldn't stop eating. And I just the gyms obviously all went on lockdown as well. So everything just kind of happened at once. I started getting really bad pains. Like my periods have always been bad, but like I started getting really bad pains, and I was like, this isn't right. Something's not right. And basically, I was trying to find out what was like wrong with me. Started to kind of research into endometriosis, and really kind of started to believe that I had it. But yeah, so it went down to we moved down to Exeter to try and get a bit of a change, and I thought it would help, but my problems only got worse because I wasn't working on myself. And yeah, the weight just carried on being put on, and it wasn't a slow process. It was just a very, very quick process. But I realized that because something was wrong with me, I could feel something was wrong. I couldn't get off the sofa for 3 weeks of the month. And so I kind of like went through this whole like self-diagnosis phase. You kind of like enter in like groups and stuff to find out, like, you don't want to like Google what's wrong with you, but like I tried to start finding groups on Instagram and stuff, and about endometriosis, and I was like, I relate to all of this. And I think that just threw like another spanner in the works for me, because I was just like, oh my God, my binge eating's come back. I've just put on all this weight. I could potentially have endometriosis. Like, what else is going to happen? And like fast forward to like May 2021, I had a consultation with a private endometriosis specialist, and I ended up having surgery in August 2021, like a laparoscopy, and I got my endometriosis removed. He found that it was stage 4, so it was like very like widespread, and that was quite validating for me to kind of hear that I did have it, because I've been suffering for so long. But it's just been a really crazy journey. I say long story short, but it wasn't a short story. But it's just been very like up and down, trying to find myself, losing myself, find myself, losing myself. But I feel like people, they have that through life, but everyone's story looks slightly different, don't they?
Yeah, and I think let's tap into it, because it's interesting you say, you know, ups and downs, and I think everyone does. I think what a lot of us do, like there's some things you said in there that I can really relate to. And you said the thing about you know, not wanting people to look at you, and if they didn't, like, I was like, oh my God, I do that, and I instantly I was just like, oh my God. So let's unravel some of what you just said. So I think first and foremost, really want to talk about, you said something about your mum being in the diet, you know, having that diet culture, which we face different challenges now, but they had a really weird relationship with the diet culture. Like we're a lot more educated, however, it's so much more in our faces because
100%.
But it's really interesting because I think every woman, or the majority of women, their relationship with their bodies and with their relationship with food starts with their mum or a parent. So just talk about that and like the realities of it, and like things you maybe saw, or like what you learned, or what you were kind of not literally told, but like metaphorically told.
Absolutely. Like I said, I would see my mum struggle with the relationship with her body like every day. You know, she would tell me I'm beautiful, but then she would then go and stand in the mirror and completely criticize herself. So for me, as a kid, like as an adolescent, like looking at that, you're like, well, which one is it? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies here. Are you saying that to me just because I'm your daughter and I should be treating myself the way you're treating yourself? Like, how is this? It's not making sense to me. And I basically have had so many conversations with my mum over the years. And I'm just a very honest person, and I want the best for everybody. So I did a lot of trauma unpacking and realization kind of like conversations with my mum. They weren't always the best. There was a lot of arguments. and a lot of tears. But me and my mum have never been in such an amazing place as we are now with each other and ourselves. She is so much kinder to herself. She realizes how much she was sucked into the diet industry. And that's only because, like you say, we're in an age of education now. I was able to kind of like sit her down and say, look, what you're doing is it's not okay. It's not okay, firstly, for yourself. And it's not okay for the people that you're necessarily talking to. It could be quite triggering for them. And she didn't really understand it until I'd been like kind of diagnosed with endo, and I put on all that weight. She didn't really understand kind of what I was going through. Like, she's always been supportive, but because she'd never really experienced it, I think it's really hard, or if you have it, so she had experienced it, sorry, but it was always that she was trying to make herself thinner. It was never that she'd put on an excessive amount of weight, so she didn't really understand that side of things. But in terms of struggling with her body, she's obviously always done that. So when I was going through that, she was saying, right, okay, so maybe we can just get up and we can just like exercise a bit more and we can do this. And I'm thinking, my fatigue is so bad right now. I feel like I've got flu times a million. All of my joints are swollen. It was all of these new symptoms that I really wasn't used to. So for someone to tell me that was just like, you're making me feel like more of a failure than I already am.
And was that before or after like these conversations, or like during?
During, like, as I was going through kind of like my weight gain, I was trying to say to my mum, like, I'm just trying to accept myself for who I am. Like, this is obviously a tough time in my life that I'm going through. I need to be kind to myself. That's it. I don't need any like maliciousness. I don't need any, not that she's ever malicious, but towards myself, I don't need any of that. And she's just always been very hard on herself. So I think she kind of like thought that maybe that's how I needed to be with myself, to kind of get my A into G and like, you know, sort my life out. But it wasn't like that. I was dealing with a chronic condition that I've always had, but had become very prevalent in the last like few years. And it was just a very weird, we went through a really weird part in our relationship because we were always arguing, because I was saying, you need to be kind to yourself. And she's like, I am. And then I would like, she'd be like, right, I'm doing this diet this week. And then she'd get like the whiteboard out, right, I'm sticking this on the wall. And I'm like, you're doing it again. I was like, every single week you're doing something different. I said, you can't rely on motivation because motivation is fleeting. You need to find something consistent in your life that you can stick to, that makes you happy, that makes you fulfilled. And it took a long time to get it through her head, that she was really treating herself this way. And me putting on weight and going through those struggles that I have was the best thing that ever happened to me, and the best thing that's ever happened to me and my mum, because it allowed me to stop being so flipping vain, and it allowed me to really learn to love like myself. I'm going to start crying. But I'm so glad I had that, because I never experienced mental health struggles like it. And my mum, she, bless her, she didn't have a choice. She was coming on that journey with me. You know, I was dragging her into all of the healing that I was trying to do. And I'm so glad that I stuck by her, because I was having some conversations with my dad, and he said, you know, your mum has struggled so much over these years, and, you know, I've seen it firsthand. He said, but I've never been able to get the answers out of her that you have. I've never been able to dig that deep. I was like, well, it's just because I'm bossy. Like, she's coming on it with me because, you know, she deserves to be free.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's interesting because I'm on a bit of a thing of being kind to yourself and self-love and that kind of thing, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it's funny when you start to think about it, you realize how bad people speak to themselves and how open they are about it. And I've started to call people out on it. So like if they, like at work, for example, I literally say, we don't talk about ourselves like that. Like they'll say, but I notice myself saying it a lot, which means that people are talking shit about themselves openly a lot. And it's so bad. So like, how did that journey start for you? And what are some of the ways of being kind to yourself? Because it's interesting you say about like your mum reinventing the wheel. I do it a lot. And I have like this Sunday night ritual where I'll write down a list of like what's gone well in the week and what hasn't gone well. But then I will talk about binge eating in a second because I could talk for years on it. But I struggle with binge eating a bit, and I do it, and then I'm like, right, tomorrow we'll start a new day, and I write a whole life plan, and that is obviously, you just said there, like not a great thing. So just talk about like how you noticed it, how you started, what are some of the things you've kind of implemented to be kinder to yourself?
I think my whole life was mirror checking. And not in a good way. It would be, I'd do a set of something. Can I see my abs yet? I'd do a set of something. Can I see more definition in my arms yet? And when you go into the gym and you're wanting to change your physique, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I always say it has to be fueled from the right perspective. When I gained weight, and I'm not saying that gaining weight is a bad thing, like at all. Like I needed it to find myself. Like that is the bottom line. I never would have become who I am if I hadn't have gone through those struggles. But I avoided the mirror completely. So it was a weird experience for me to kind of like be constantly mirror checking, be constantly needing that validation from other people, to not even wanting to catch a glimpse of my reflection or look in the mirror. And I actually went to like a body dysmorphic disorder panel the other night, and they did say that is one of the kind of like symptoms, or one of the actions that you go through, is complete mirror checking or complete avoidance. And I have obviously kind of like done both of those. So that was really interesting to hear, because I thought it was just mirror checking, but obviously the avoidance things comes into it as well. But one of the things that I've spoken about since the start of my Instagram journey, and for anyone that I speak to like over the years, is get a little journal, a little book, and every day I will start crying, so I'm going to take this slow. Every day, write 3 things in it that you like about yourself. You're allowed to write 1 physical, 1 emotional, and 1 mental thing. And you just write it down. Can be small, can be long, whatever, but 3 bullet points. You write it down, you close the book. And the next day you go and you write them down.
Yeah.
And then the next day you go and you write them down. At the end of the week, you've got 7 days worth of like things that you love about yourself, but every day they have to be different. And what I encourage people to do as well is, rather than just write them down in the journal, you can either cut them out, or you can just write them on post-it notes and put them in a box. And then at the end of the week, you can stick those post-it notes up on your mirror, and you can just look at everything that you are, that you believe that you are for that week. Like I am kind, that I am patient, I like my eyelashes, I had a good eyelash day today, or like, but it's allowing yourself to focus on the physical, because I think it's important. We live with ourselves, we know what we look like, we pick ourselves apart. So I think allowing yourself to write down something physical sometimes can be challenging, but I think it's necessary to kind of feel that connection to yourself. But also don't use all of them as a physical point. So pick like an emotional, and pick a mental, so you're really digging deeper than the external. But have them in front of you. Like a lot of us are very much like out of sight, out of mind. So if you can actually see them like in front of you on those post-it notes, I think it's really important. Yeah. And I forced myself when I realized how much I was avoiding the mirror. I forced myself to sit and look at my like reflection, because I didn't like what I saw. But then again, I've never liked what I saw. And what I had to remind myself was that I have had body confidence issues at every single size that I have been. And that's what I had to keep remembering. Like I would call myself every slur under the sun, looking at my body. And I had to keep saying to myself, like that kind of angel devil situation. I had to keep like bringing the angel back in. And I was like, you know what? You've been insecure your whole life. Stop this. Like,
how do you, just on the post-it notes thing, like because we are in a world of self-care and manifesting and meditating and and even that bit of it's overwhelming, but I do think if you are listening to this and you just eye rolled at the whole post-it note thing, because people do, like it's like they put the picture of the younger self on your mirror and everyone eye rolls.
Absolutely.
It sounds like such a small thing, but it's so powerful. Like it's crazy how quickly your mind switches when you just start to input words.
Yeah, 100%.
Words about yourself.
totally agree. Like, what I've realized is, as corny and as cheesy as things are, nothing is more important than you.
No.
I know it's so cheesy, but you are the main character of your own life. You have to start treating yourself like it. I would always treat myself as like the backup actor, or like the second. Like, I would never put myself first. And as cheesy as the post-it note thing is, I wanted to become familiar with my reality, and I wasn't allowing myself to do that. I had no idea what I looked like, and then I would see a photo that someone would take of me, and I'd be like, "What the hell is that?" And then I feel like it would just trigger me more. So I was thinking, if I give that power back to myself and I become familiar with my reality in the mirror, then I can be more at peace with myself. I think it's normal to have insecurities. I think it just makes us human. But I do think that I was at a place where I was like, okay, I have these insecurities, but I do not want them to stop me from living my life. Yeah. And the more I hide myself away, the more that idea of hiding myself becomes more comfortable, and I don't want that. I always think of like you driving a car, and there being like cones in the road, and the cones are your insecurities. Like, you can either let them get in the way and like your journey is going to take longer and you're going to like weave in and out of them, or you could just move the cones out of the way. The insecurities are still there, but you're just living alongside them. So I think sometimes it can be quite unrealistic for us to feel like we have to fix all of these insecurities, and we don't. I just think anyone who is listening, I just want you to know that you are worthy of human experience. You are worthy of traveling the world, living authentically in your body. You are worthy of these experiences, but you don't have to fix yourself before you do them. Like, you are still worthy of doing them, no matter how many problems you are facing within yourself. And that's something that I really had to like force myself to believe. And one of the things that I made sure that I did, and I would never, ever, ever stop myself from doing, no matter how self-conscious I felt, I would never stop wearing a crop top, and I would never stop wearing a bikini. And I've never had such a big belly in my entire life, and I absolutely love it now. But I am so happy that I have got the memories from the last 2-3 years of me living my life in a bikini, and I didn't cover up. And I'm so proud of myself for that, even though it was so hard for me to do. But no one cares. The amount of times I went to the beach, no one's going to remember me from being there. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just you. So yeah, that for anyone listening, that's what I would say. Just live alongside your insecurities, and maybe try and heal them along the way, but don't let them stop you from living your life. Yeah.
You know, a big part of why I do this podcast, and this is the bit what makes me really emotional, is the amount of time and energy and effort we spend talking shit about ourselves, feeling bad. Like, the amount of times I've sat and eaten because I felt like crap. So then it's like self-sabotage, or I've been on a date and I've told myself that I'm not good enough, so why would I even bother? And my body's not good enough to be in this restaurant, for example. Like, it can be all consuming, and I just think it's such a waste of a life, which sounds quite dramatic, but people get to, like, we just, spoke about our parents, people get to 50, 60, 70, and they've wasted their whole life, but they've wasted a lot of their emotional life worrying about
absolutely
lies. And I just think, what a fucking waste, like, to be completely honest. Like, I just think it's so sad. But let's so on that, and just talking about weight and body, and you've obviously gone through like the journey of fluctuating, which I think a lot of women also experience. But what has that journey been like? And then really keen to talk about fitness, because there's also a lot of stigma, and I feel it about like going to the gym. But I go to the gym loads, and it's my thing. And even I sometimes think, do I even belong in this gym? Because I'm bigger than, and I'm not. Like, I'm bigger than what a gym girl is, but that's something I've obviously been told, and we've been brought up that gym girls are skinny and they've got abs and whatever. But let's just have a conversation around that, because I'm really keen. I feel like you might have thought and felt the same things, but then you've come out the other side. So you told us how you got into fitness, but like, you just talk a bit around your journey with that, and like overcoming some of the stigmas and even the wording around, like, I don't know how you feel about body positive and all of that stuff, but
yeah, absolutely. I know that I don't tend to use the word body positive, as I know that represents the like, I know that like Black and people of color started that movement, and that was a way for them to kind of feel liberated in themselves because they were being so kind of like oppressed. So I don't feel like I belong to the word body positivity. Like, I know that was a movement that was started, but that's why I always say body acceptance. I feel like everyone can be positive about their body. I just know the actual body positivity movement was started for them. But I definitely think that everybody deserves to feel positive about themselves, like 1,000,000,000,000,000%. And one thing that I feel so passionately about is gym anxiety. And it's a real thing. Like, you get anxiety and then you go, right, what's going to help me with my anxiety? I'm going to go to the gym. Then you get to the gym and you're like, my anxiety is so much worse. Like, and it's just completely overwhelming. And I know you said, like, you know, we don't necessarily look like the typical gym girl size, but you actually look, there are so many more women in there who look like us. But the focus is the girls that, you know, look like the gym girls. And I think that anybody who works hard, you know, good for you. If you go in, you don't work hard, good for you. You know, you turned up. If you get to the gym and you go, I can't do this, and you turn around, good for you. At least you tried. If you didn't go to the gym and you think, I can't do that, good for you. You're doing what serves you in that moment. And sometimes I think it's important to push yourself out of your comfort zone, absolutely. But what I think is important in your progression, depending on what you want out of life, is find the right support groups. If you find that some people are like, oh, don't go to the gym, you don't need that. Like, obviously, you're going to have that sort of bad relationship with it. The gym has also been a place of toxicity for me when I was in that everybody check me out phase. But also now it has been huge in my healing journey. And I've had to really adapt to a lot of things because of my endometriosis. I used to do a lot. I've got a yawn brewing. Oh, I'm so sorry. A lot of like HIIT training, a lot of burpees, and I can't do any of that anymore. Like, I feel like a shell of a person to what I used to be able to do. But what's the point in doing that if it's going to make me more injured? What's the point in doing that if it's going to hurt me? Like, you've got to do what serves your body. And I really always say to people, knowledge is confidence. The more you know, the more you can do. So if you're going to go to the gym, you owe it to yourself to learn, because you will feel so much more confident. Because if you go there without knowing what to do, that's when it can become even more overwhelming. So knowledge is confidence, knowledge is power, knowledge is your purpose for like the gym and what you want to get out of that. Because
what's your advice for people who are feeling like they want to go to the gym, but and also, can we just state that, like, going to the gym doesn't need to be to lose weight or to look a certain way. Going to the gym for me is more, actually, I'm going to take that back, because I do go to look a certain way, because I'm going through this process of trying to tell myself a different narrative, and I am a lot better, and I focus on how I feel versus how I look. That's what I'm trying to do. But for a lot of the time, it's exactly that. I go to feel better. I go to feel stronger. I go to feel mentally stronger and mentally clearer. So I just want to talk about that, because I think a lot of people do think, you know, I can't go to the gym because my goal is not to be this. Go to the gym because it's actually there's so much benefit for mental stimulation. For you feel like a different person when you come out.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I go to the gym 3 times a week. Like, I do my 3 weight training sessions, and I feel incredible on my days that I go to the gym. And then on the days that I don't, just move at a bit of a slower pace. You know, things take longer to do, conversations take longer to have. Like, and I have noticed that difference. It's obviously important to have that rest, but I do notice the difference in how much more stimulated I am. Like, when I've been to the gym, like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, what I was going to ask is, what is your advice for people who are feeling a bit anxious about the gym, or like they don't belong there, or they don't know what to do when they get in there?
Absolutely. I would say to people, follow creators or follow professionals that inspire you or allow you to learn about fitness in a way that's not going to make you feel like shit. Because if anything makes you feel like shit, you need to stop doing it. You cannot hate yourself into a body that you love. That is like, period. It's not going to happen. And I would say, if you feel confident to, take things slow. Please don't rush into anything, because technique is the most important thing in the world. I have so many injuries now. I've got like shoulder, chest tears. I've got like fractured toes. I've got like back twinges, all because I didn't learn how to do things properly when I first learned, kind of like when I first got into exercise. And it's so important to learn the technique first before you do anything. So I would say, learn how to do a squat properly, just a body weight, everything body weight. Learn how to do a squat properly, learn how to hold yourself in a plank with your core engaged. And I would say learn to do a couple of like those primary movements, and just keep practicing those, because all of those will transcend into other movements. Once you've learned those kind of like main things, like learn how to do a lunge as well. That's really important. But if you just kind of like go straight into it, you're going to injure yourself, because amazing, you might be able to lift the weight, but you're not necessarily targeting what you want to target, and your alignment's going to be completely out. But once you do feel confident with the technique and you feel like you know how to do those certain movements, I would just pick one piece of equipment. So I always say to people, maybe like a kettlebell or a dumbbell, and pick 5 different movements that you can do with that. With that thing, and then maybe try that like 3 times a week, switching out a couple of the moves every time, but stay with your dumbbell. And you would just feel so much more kind of like, it'll be much more of a rewarding session, because you've like really exhausted the options with that piece of equipment, rather than being like, right, let me do a few of these, and then right, okay, let me put that down, let me do a few mountain climbers, right, okay, let me just go on the cross training for a little bit. Like, actually really understand that piece of equipment and what you can do with it. Like, it's quite liberating, actually. You feel quite connected to a piece of equipment, and it's really weird. But if you can kind of like pick a different part to use with that equipment, it's actually really, really fun, because you're like challenging yourself in a way, not just physically, but mentally. But I do think fitness apps as well are really good, because they teach you how to do things. There's usually videos, and there's usually a description of how to do it, so you can actually reference that. Because the worst thing is like, am I doing this right? Like, what's going on? So to have that reference, I think, is really important. Or, you know, have that support, go with a friend, or have a personal
classes and stuff, or PT.
Oh my God, exactly. You know, even PTs, but as well, do not let someone treat you like shit. Like, it's not worth it. Do not pay them your money. It is not worth it. You want to come out of that gym feeling like you've worked hard, but also like you've not been treated like shit, and that you feel like you've learned something. You feel empowered, rather than feeling like torn down and more insecure. Like, that's really important. So that would be like my advice to anyone going into the gym, is just kind of like learn what supports you best.
Yeah, apps are really good, actually. I was going to say, like, if you don't have the means to have a personal trainer, because they can be quite expensive, just have one. I had one session, and I've been going to the gym for years, and I had one session with a guy just on technique, and it was, I got so much value from it. I know you work with Beyond, but I work with WeGlow, and the app is just makes you feel part of a community, which I didn't really expect from it. And it's really good. A lot of girls use it as like they put their routine in, but there's loads of different ways you can use it. So I just use it as like a library if I'm feeling a bit stuck of what to do. So there is quite a few ways to.
100%. It's so important to feel like you've got that support. That is the main thing. And I think that's why these girls create these apps, is because they have felt that, and they have felt alone, and they want to have that sense of community. They want to have that sense of community for other people as well, and they don't want people to feel like they don't know what they're doing. So I think the apps are a really good way to do that, 100,000,000%, because personal trainers are expensive. You know, like, people couldn't afford to train with me, and I wasn't setting the prices. I worked at Virgin Active. I didn't like set them as well, and I totally understand that it's not doable. Like, if I was on the other end of it, I wouldn't have been able to afford a PT. So there's loads of options out there. Just got to research which ones serve you best, for sure.
Just a little side note while we're on the topic. What are some gym like clothing brands that you like? Because I know a lot of girls struggle with this, also me included. Um, I never know where to invest because it's quite expensive to buy gym clothes. And then some of them you get, like, I'm quite tall, so like the legs come up short on a lot of them, or they obviously go see-through, or they bobble, or like, what are some gym brands that you really love and you would recommend like investing in?
Yeah, my absolute favorite is the seamless hello sleepy, is the seamless collection from Tala. Like it's my absolute favorite. That's my favorite. I also love Megan's brand, Bluey. Like, love it. Like, it comes up so high. Like, she's got a top that scoops in here. It just makes the girls look awesome. But like anything with seams, I just can't get on with it. So I feel like those two are incredible. I haven't worn Honor in a while, and I used to just be obsessed with like Gymshark, but I haven't bought Gymshark in a long time, so I don't know what like it's like now.
I get on the Gymshark hype, you know. I've never ever worn Gymshark, but I've heard it's amazing quality.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. I feel, I don't know. I feel like it used to be. I don't know if anything's changed. Like, I just feel it's not the same anymore. So I don't. I would just, say that's just my personal opinion. But I think it's still a really, really awesome brand. But I don't really have any other like brands. I'm just obsessed with like the Tala Seamless collection. Like, it's so lightweight. I don't like anything that feels too thick. It literally just like hugs my body. Oh, I honestly absolutely love it. I might even have like a little video of it yesterday. Like, I took a little video in the gym, and I just feel like it's so like, if you can see it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I love it.
It doesn't feel thick at all, and it allows my body to just be my body and not feel like I'm like. But yeah, that's what I love.
Okay, getting back to the topic. So let's talk a bit about accepting your body and gaining confidence, because again, it seems like you have gone on a big journey with body. And I mean, I've said quite a couple of times throughout the episode, and I've also done like solus episodes on my body and accepting my body and how I'm finding it. And I'm kind of trying to do a live journey of it so that people can like follow and relate and dip into. And I think I'm still on that journey of where is my happy medium and how do I remain content for a long period of time, because I can go a week of feeling good, but then I'll eat something that wasn't in the plan on a Friday night or something, and it can totally throw my whole game off for a long period of time, and I can feel completely shit about myself. So what are some kind of, how have you done it, and how, and I'm presuming you still have like bad body days because everyone does, but how do you strengthen that relationship with your body and become more confident and content, I guess?
That is such a great question. And as soon as you said it, I had an answer like straight away. Just don't expect too much from yourself. Like, stop putting yourself in this, like, like people say like hustle culture. I really think that transcends into the diet industry as well, and like how we perceive ourselves. We've got to constantly be grinding on ourselves. We've got to, I think as well, with this whole, like you said before, about this whole like manifestation and working on yourself, like that again in itself can feel really overwhelming. Just don't expect too much from yourself. And I don't want to say otherwise you'll get disappointed, but it's kind of the truth. Like, if you expect too much from yourself, you're going to fall short every time. Just take every day as it comes. And I say to people, if taking it day by day feels too much, take it hour by hour. And if that doesn't work, right, we take it minute by minute. Because sometimes when we try to think, right, I've got to do all of this like later on, it just doesn't happen. And the now becomes very kind of paralyzing. And I think that you end up just being stuck in your thoughts, frozen, not knowing what to do. So I think it's really important to have goals. I think they're really, really important to have goals. They keep us on track, but they've got to be fueled from the right perspective, but also to not expect to do them all at once. Like, what might serve you today might not serve you tomorrow. And that's really important to remember. Like, I think it's really important to check in on yourself as well. Every like 3 months is just a general thing. It could be every week, because your goals and your needs might have changed week by week. So it's just so important to do that, I think.
What if I am okay, I come to you and I'm like, Sophie, I'm in a complete rut. I don't know what to do. I have gained a ton of weight, or I'm just feeling really crap about myself. Like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I feel like I try and then something happens and it throws me off guard. Like, what do I do? What's your advice for someone in that situation?
Learn to accept yourself in that moment. So there needs to be work that's done to accept yourself now. Like, you cannot love where you live, like if you view your body as temporary. If your body is constantly the thing that you need to change, you're never going to be content ever. Even if you lost that weight, you wouldn't feel content, because you are still viewing it as a temporary thing. I'll be happy when. And that when never comes. I've been there. A lot of people, like, either when they gain weight or when they lose weight, they are content in themselves because they've done that inner work. They realize that they are more than their body, but they still want to work towards a goal, which I think is absolutely fine. But again, I think it's fueled from knowledge. A lot of people who have these goals and they feel content with themselves, they've done the inner work. No matter what body you're in, I just encourage you to do the inner work and understand why you may be feeling this way. Are you feeling upset in your body because you're not getting that external validation from people? Because that's something that I had to really work on myself with. When I gained a lot of weight, I didn't get as much attention, and if I got no attention, and that really made me sad, because I was like, why is no one looking at me? And that was a really big thing that I had to get over, and it's very embarrassing to say out loud.
I think it's quite refreshing, actually, and I think it's more people need to be more honest, because I'm going to be honest, that I still seek that validation now, and it's something that I really want to step away from. But how do you talked about like the post-it notes and stuff, but what are some other things that you've done to help with that journey of just accepting yourself? Because I'm guessing there's people listening to this that, I said it a few times on the podcast, but I once had a conversation with my friend and she was like, how the hell do you journal? And I was like, to me, it's the easiest thing. Like, it's writing in a book. It's the best, the most effective form of like self-care for me. I find it so easy. Feel like a weight's been lifted afterwards. But she was like, that puts the fear in me to write down. And I found that so bizarre. So there'll be people listening to this being like, how do I accept myself when I actually don't like what I see at all, or don't like how I'm feeling at all? So what are some of the things that you've done outside of the post-it notes?
So I'm trying not to cry, because it involves a mirror, but no writing or anything. Stand clothed, unclothed, do what you want, but stand in a mirror and look at yourself in the eyes and say, I am proud of you. Honestly, it's the hardest thing to do, because you can say it, but if you don't believe it, you will see that. You're looking at yourself. You will know when you're lying. And do it every day. Like I went, so I'm getting married this year. I went to London with my mum to try and find her some like Mother of the Bride outfits. She was having that crisis situation of, I look old. And I had that same conversation. When you're 80, when you look back, you're going to think, oh my God, I was so sexy in those changing rooms. Mm-hmm. And I held her hand and I looked in the mirror and I said to her, I want you to say to yourself, I love you. And it took a little while, but she did it. She wouldn't have done that like 3 years ago. And we both did it. And because she felt silly. So I just went ahead and did it myself and looked at myself. And I genuinely was like, I love you. And then she felt empowered to do that. And I did see a TikTok the other day of this girl like sitting down in the mirror, saying nice things to herself. The same sentence she said, and she duetted herself on the first day of doing it, and then like the 30th day, and she said, you can seriously see the softness in my face on the 30th day, because I actually start to believe it. And I think that is so powerful in itself. actually just speaking the words, either having conversations with people about how you feel, or saying to yourself in the mirror, I am proud of you. It's so hard, but it's so worth it. It's an easy thing to do, but it's also the hardest thing to do. So I would just encourage anybody just to try it.
And I think it's one of those, sorry, I think it's one of those things that seems so trivial, yet it's so impactful. Like, it's so beneficial to you and the relationship you have with yourself.
Absolutely.
Something you said there about looking back, and I think you said it earlier. You said, yeah, about looking back at photos. You just said it about your mum there. It's funny, isn't it? This is just a coincidence, but I was looking back at photos of me in lockdown, and I have really fond memories of lockdown. A big part of that, I'm going to be completely honest, is because I was in really good shape, but I did it on my terms. Like, I was doing I'm one of these people who, I think, even now, I'm trying to get out of this mindset that I'm like, the heavier you lift, the stronger you are, the better your body looks, da-da-da. And I did all body weight. I was walking for, like, I did my hour walk a day, but I was doing loads and loads of steps. And I dedicated the whole time to me, like, selfishly or not, it's not selfish, but I just really focused on me. And I was looking back, and I just looked happy, but and then I thought, in that moment, I felt the same way about my body then as how I feel about it now. And I'm 2 stone heavier than I was then now, but yet I still have the same feeling. So you said something about the goal of being skinny or losing weight, and you feel like in your head, you tell yourself, I'm going to be so much different when I've lost that 2 stone, or when I'm that 1 size smaller. And in reality, it's not, unless you kind of work on your insecurities and your lack of confidence and that acceptance. It doesn't matter what size you are.
No, I'm so proud of you though for realizing that, because when you do have those fond memories, and you were taking care of yourself, you're moving your body and all of that. We had a really good summer as well in 2020. Like, it was epic. But you were connecting with nature and all that sort of stuff. But then, like you said, you had those insecurities. I'm so proud of you for remembering that you have those insecurities, because what we do sometimes when we compare, or most of the times when we compare, we forget, we like glorify it, and we act like nothing was wrong. So the fact that you've realized that you felt those insecurities is incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's so important for, like, inner work to remember. It's not all like sunshine and rainbows.
And I think we idolize, and again, I think because we've been told it by the media, but we idolize bodies, smaller bodies, or bodies that are in shape. And I think it is just worth noting, like, that smaller doesn't mean happier, by any stretch.
Not.
Can we move on to binge eating, because you've mentioned it a few times, and it's something that I really struggle with. I actually feel a bit anxious even going into this, like, bringing it up, but just share your journey of that and how it's affected you, because again, I think a lot of people struggle with this, and I would go as far as saying it's probably one of the most hidden, shame-felt, like, biggest things that women do that is not actually openly spoken about.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is so much shame that is attached to it. And like I said before, when I was going through that really tough time of like lockdown, and then the second lockdown, the Christmas lockdown, and then putting on the weight, it was because of the binge eating. And I used to track my calories a lot. I was trying to find the best way to say that then. I was just trying to track my calories a lot, and I would, like, weigh my celery, and it became so obsessive. And my partner was feeling quite self-conscious in himself. So what we did, like, kind of mid last year, was reach out to my cousin who initially got me into fitness, because he does, like, online personal training. So we said, would you train Bryn? And would you help him? He wants some support. He just wants some consistency, some stability? Would you write him like a training program? Would you kind of like help him track his food so that he can kind of like feel structured, because he's going all day without eating, and then in the evening he's having to eat everything. So I would say that's quite a triggering response for binge eating, because it's create the cat, because it's forcing him to like eat everything in the evening. So as I was reaching out to him, I was like, well, I'm really struggling, so I need help as well. So I reached out to him and I basically said everything that I felt. I was like, I don't want to weigh myself. I don't want to track my food. I don't want to go to the gym to lose weight necessarily. I just want to feel happy in my body. And he has been so incredible, because he's gone through the same things, relationship with food wise and everything. And he was like, we're going to do what it takes to just get you moving your body and feeling good about it. So he said, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to just track your food on MyFitnessPal. That word gives me like cringe. But he was like, just do it, because we just want to see what your eating habits are like. He said, because I'm not physically with you, I can't see what your day-to-day is like. He said, so just doing this will allow there to be no secrets, so that we can get to the root of what's happening. So I thought, okay, that's good. I'm not doing it because I'm weighing my celery and I'm so obsessive with that. I'm doing it because I'm collating data to show him. He needed daily weigh-ins to, again, collect, my cat's attacking me, to collect data so he knew what situation I was in. But what I would do is I would get on the scale, I wouldn't look at it, Bryn would look at it and send the picture over to him. So there was a lot of things that I felt really triggering that I didn't want to be involved in. And it was so amazing for him to cater for that. Because for me, my happiness, my internal happiness, all of the work that I'd done, I did not want that to be undone, like, at all. So we started training with him last year. I really wanted to get back into the gym to feel good, because I felt so crap after everything I've been through with my endo. It just completely inflames your body. I was like, I want to get back to feeling agile and mobile again and strong. And it's going to sound really silly, because I never thought this would happen, but I am tracking my calories now, again, just to kind of show him what my input is. But it actually it's fixed. I don't think it'll ever be fixed, but it's actually helped my binge eating, because what it's forcing me to do is to actually get meals in during the day. If I eat, let's say empty calories, but non-nutritious foods, I don't feel as full, and then it makes me binge because I don't feel satisfied. So my inner work, my self-care has been prioritizing, not just fitness, prioritizing meals, rather than just everything in the evening, just eat everything. And I did see a TikTok on that the other day. It was like, the reason you're binging is because you're not eating enough. And that's because you need to make sure that you're really eating those good hearty meals. You're going to feel more nutritionally satisfied, and you're going to feel complete, all of those things. And that was something that I really had to overcome, was actually prioritizing meals and regular kind of like eating times, because that had just gone out the window. Like, I would make a full tray of like Rice Krispie cakes, but I would mix it with like a half kilo of peanut butter to like mush it all together, and a whole bottle of maple syrup, topped with many bars of chocolate to melt on the top, and then you put them in the freezer. I would eat that whole baking tray like in a night. And I know that so many other people, like yourself, you just relate to that. And it's allowed me to kind of take control again over my life. If I had to stop counting, that would not bother me. What I've learned from it is just to prioritize my meals, and really get fulfillment into my life. And I feel like it saved me. It really did, because my binging was out of control. And it was just having the support from my cousin. I said, I need daily check-ins. I need, hey, how are you doing today? Can I help with anything? Don't forget to drink your water, like all of that stuff. And it just felt amazing to have like a really gentle support. And he understood as well. He's gone through a big kind of body transformation. And he says, I still see myself as that first image. So, you know, it plays on our mind a lot, but it's really helpful to have someone who was struggling because they can empathize with you. So I think if anybody is getting that support anywhere, they need to have someone who, even if they've not gone through it themselves, they can understand your journey, and they can, if they can't empathize, they can sympathize. Like, it's, yeah, that would be what I have to say about that, because it's exhausting. It really is exhausting.
It is. And I think interesting what you said about calorie counting apps, because I used to religiously count my calories. And then I went through a thing of, I don't want to be chained to tracking what I'm eating. Like, this can't be life. Like, it can't be, I don't want to do this forever. So I've not done it for a couple of years. I've been really up and down with my food, my diet, my weight, whatever. And I've actually just started tracking them again, just because I do, if I'm being honest again, I do want to lose a little bit of weight just to feel a bit more comfortable. Like, I've noticed my clothes are a bit tighter and I just want to get back to feeling good. And then, yeah, I don't know how I feel about them, but interesting you say then it's more just to be accountable to yourself and know that if I'm eating 3 good meals, it doesn't, and it's also like, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but if I eat a ton of chocolate on a night time, it's on my mind that I then have to put that into an app, and it makes it a reality. Whereas sometimes if you do it, I don't know about you, but I just feel crap for 3 days, and I know I'm going to feel crap for 3 days because I ate loads on a Friday night. So Tuesday I'll feel good again when it's all gone out of my system and I've emotionally processed it. But actually not doing it and being accountable is, I feel that's just a realization I had when you were talking about it then, because I was like, I'm doing it, but I don't quite know why or if it's the right thing for me to do.
So true, because like you said, it makes it that reality. But one thing that I really found has helped me is to be honest about my eating habits. I was very much eating in secret, and it's really made me be honest to myself. Like, my cousin said, look, you're not tracking these calories for me. He said, you're doing this so that you can be honest with yourself about your journey. Obviously, he needs the data, but he said, this is for you. He said, if you don't know something, if you eat something and don't log it, I'm not going to know. He said, but I want to heal your relationship with yourself. And also, for anybody listening, you have full bodily autonomy on what you want to do. I feel like the body positivity and the body acceptance movement has been so prevalent over the last couple of years. It's made people afraid to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, please lose weight, but make sure that it's fueled from the right perspective. Like we said before, you cannot hate yourself into a body that you love. Like, understand the reasons why you want to lose weight, understand the reasons. Is it because you want to feel fitter in your body, you want to feel more agile? Like, my dad wants to lose weight because he wants to be faster on the running track because he's a runner. Or are you wanting to be thinner so that you get more attention from other people? So it's really important to understand the reasons why you're doing it, but you are allowed to do whatever you want with your body as long as your priority is your overall health, I would say.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, in the nicest, most respectful possible way, nobody cares. Like, no, I would not, like, unless, and I'm speaking from experience, I used to judge everyone through my own insecurities. But I used to judge everyone and I'd think things in my head, and I don't do it anymore. I do sometimes, but I catch myself and I'm like, no, Claire, we don't talk about people like that anymore. But nobody is, what I've learned is everyone is not obsessed with themselves. I don't know how to articulate what I'm saying, but everybody's so focused on them and their families or their own situations at home. Nobody's giving two shits whether you gain a couple of pounds, lose a couple of pounds. People aren't that bothered. It's like the thing you said in the gym, like, people don't care about, people aren't watching you work out in the gym. They're focusing on their own thing. So I think once you start to understand that and you take away that level of pressure that you're putting on yourself, it makes everything a hell of a lot easier.
100%. Like you said, we're the ones that are holding ourselves to such high pressures. And then if we can't meet that, we're so disappointed. And that's so sad. Like, we are doing amazing, like, we are doing our absolute best. And if all you can do is give 20% today, that is 100% of your best effort today. Like, you know, we've got to stop being hard on ourselves. Like, just what I've tried to do is just every now and again just take a breath. I realize how much I don't do like conscious breathing, like, and I'll just kind of sit there and be like, because I know that sends a signal to my brain for your brain to say, right, I'm not anxious in this moment, I'm calm. And it really just helped me just kind of get through the next 5 minutes. And if I need to do it again, I'll do it again. But just take it like I said, like minute by minute, if day by day or hour by hour is too much. And we just got to stop putting those pressures on ourselves, because like I said before, the calorie counting wasn't serving me.
Yeah.
I never, ever, 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 ever thought that it would now. What I'm more focused on is like the macros, like the protein and but it doesn't rule my life. I'm not thinking about food 24/7 now, where I was last year, and it's allowed my brain to be a bit calmer. You know, it might not serve me in a year's time. It might make me, you know, go back to my old ways, which then I have to step away. So that's why it's really important to like analyze what's right for you in that moment. And I've always said this in my captions and stuff on my Insta, but you have like full bodily autonomy. Like, don't allow someone else's journey to impact your journey in a way that you don't want it to go. Like, you have to be in control of yourself and your story, because you're the only one living it. You know, like, you have to do what's best for you and is going to make you happiest. Yeah. And it's so important.
Yeah. And also, like, I think binge eating and stuff, I get quite a lot of messages, or like when I do speak about it. So like, if you are struggling, like, and I'm sure your DMs and inbox is open, like, please just drop us a message, because I'm always open to a conversation or to like help or to share support, because it can be a really shitty and hard and dark place to be in, you know.
Yeah, 100%. It literally makes you feel like you're the only person in the world suffering, and everybody else is fine, especially with these like curated Instagram feeds. It makes you feel like you're the only person struggling, suffering, enduring this. And it's the worst thing, because you're already going through feeling shit about it. But then also you've got that added guilt and that added pressure on top that no one else is going through this. I think that's why I wanted to be just so real on my social media, because I wanted to use it as a diary, but I just want other people to feel sexy. I want other people just to feel like, if they want to put a lingerie set on, oh, I've got cellulite. So what's that got to do with anything? Like, you.
So does everybody else. Like, well, not everybody, but the majority of people, like, they have it too. I think still we're in a time where people are airbrushing and they're editing and they're slimming themselves down, and it's not a reality to be perfect. There's no one who's perfect.
No, sorry to interrupt. I think that's coming back a lot now, though. Like all the filters and everything that are coming back. I really feel like people were starting to accept themselves a lot during like lockdown, and now I really feel like it's going backwards again. Like, the whole heroin chic is back, and I really feel. I feel for a lot of people that, because I was there and I still am subject to it sometimes, who do get sucked in by this. And I just want people to be able to write their own story and not be so persuaded by what society thinks is, you know, acceptable, because you're acceptable as you are. You don't need best, you know, like, it's exhausting.
I think so. Let's talk about endometriosis. I actually don't know a ton about it. I've looked into it a little bit and I've got kind of a basic understanding, but just share your experience with it. You have talked about it and you've mentioned it throughout, but keen to just get like your version of events.
So again, I didn't know what it was. I'd never blooming heard of it up until like 2 years ago. So I started my periods at 10, when I was like in year 6, I believe. And they've always been really heavy. And ever since 10 years old, I've been like doubled over on the sofa, or my bed, just in so much pain. And I would just bleed like a lot. Thinking it was like normal. And then a couple of years ago, when I was living in New Zealand, I said to one of my really good friends, I was like, oh my God, you must hate the time of the month. It's so horrible, isn't it? She was like, I don't really feel it. I was like, you fucking what? What? Like, and it was actually so massive shock to me, because I assumed everybody was experiencing what I was experiencing. And it wasn't until I'd like got home and started to share stuff on social media, like before I got hacked and all that stuff. When I got back to the UK, I was getting a lot of IBS symptoms because I was drinking obviously different water, like people can say that it can make them bloat or whatever. I was eating like my mum's lasagnas and stuff, and all of these foods that I hadn't had in so long. My stomach was just going crazy. But then a couple of weeks went by and I thought my stomach would settle and the IBS symptoms kind of went, but the bloating stayed, especially like the lower like pouch just above like my pubic area, like the pubic bone. And it was like rock solid, that little like pouch at the bottom. And I was like, something's not right here. So I like posted like my belly on social media and it was like my whole belly was like rock solid. And every single comment was, that looks like endo belly, endo belly, endo belly, endo belly. And I was like, what the heck is endo belly? So I typed in endo belly on Google and then it came up with endo belly is like a kind of colloquial term for like the stomach you get because of endometriosis. And I was like, well, what's endometriosis? And then Googled it again. So basically it's the tissue that is similar to the lining of the uterus, sits outside the uterus, but it can sit everywhere in the body. It can sit all around the organs. The only place it hasn't been found is the spleen, I believe. But it basically sticks organs together. It's excess tissue. It can cause ablations and like sticky tissue. And it basically just fuses like organs together, and it can sit on nerves, causing like sciatica, huge inflammation. But the tissue, I believe, secretes a hormone that causes mega inflammation. So that can lead to like brain fog and like inflammation in your joints. The legs dragging down, like the pain that you get there. It's crazy. One of my friends has had 15 surgeries. Because of it, because of like complications that you can get. A lot of people get hysterectomies because of it, but endometriosis doesn't grow on the inside of the uterus. So technically, people's periods can get so bad because of endometriosis, but because the tissue doesn't grow on the inside of the uterus, having a hysterectomy doesn't actually remove the endometriosis. So it's absolutely crazy. So I had, when I had my surgery, they found it in quite a few places. But what I found is that endometriosis only shows up or doesn't show up on 40% of scans. So that's like x-rays, MRIs, ultrasounds, anything like that. So there is so much tissue that can get missed. Now, when you're going and doing an internal scan, obviously it's not found on the inside of the uterus. Yeah, so I had a doctor that said, I think you might have endometriosis. I totally agree with you based on all of your symptoms. I'll refer you to a gynecologist. So the gynecologist did an internal scan. He went, no, all your ovaries are fine. I didn't know that endo didn't grow on the inside at that point. So I was like, oh, okay. He's like, right, we're going to get you fitted for the coil. I was like, excuse me, what? No. I don't want to be on any contraception. Like, I don't like it. I don't want to be on it. So he was like, well, I don't know what you want from me then, basically. And I was like, okay, well, I just wanted to see if I'd got endometriosis. And he's like, no, you don't. And I was like, oh, okay. And then again, lots of pain, lots of research. I found out that the only effective way to diagnose endometriosis was through laparoscopy. So the keyhole surgery when they go in. And there's two types of surgery that you can have done. There's ablation and then there's excision. So I always think of it like a tree. Ablation is like trying to burn away the roots. Like you might be a bit successful on the surface, but you're not getting the roots underneath. They're going to know the tree's going to grow back. Excision is cutting those roots out. It's basically deemed the gold standard of endometriosis surgery. However, endometriosis doesn't have a cure. So even if you do get that endometriosis excised, it could grow back. So, I ended up paying I tried to get a laparoscopy on the NHS. It wasn't going to happen. Turns out it's like a 2-year wait list. And the surgery that they do is ablation, which is the flamethrower sort of technique. So I like to call it. And apparently it can be quite damaging to your other organs as well because you're obviously burning as well. And I know that some people have said that their symptoms come back within 2 weeks of having that surgery. So I was like, I'm not going to wait 2 years. So me and Bryn clubbed all of our savings together, paid £4,000 to go and get my excision surgery, my endometriosis surgery excised at a private hospital in Wales. And the doctors daughter had endometriosis, which is why he specialised in it. So I ended up having it all across my bladder and my bowels, because I get really bad pain when I'm going to the toilet. Like if I need the fluid, like my if I need a wee, like, you know, you're like, oh, I really need a wee, and there's pressure, I will get stabbing pains all across like my lower tummy. But I also couldn't go to the loo, without being shot up off the toilet, because it felt like I was having like a dagger like put up my butt. But this was every single time. Like, you know, sometimes like if you're a bit like bunged up or something, you get that shooting pain. You're like, oh my god, no. But it was like every single time I'd go to the toilet, and I was like, something's not right. And they ended up finding it deep in the left side of my womb. So they had to like the womb lining, like to cut open that and then dig out the endo there. But the worst place was on my rectum. They found it on my rectum, and what had happened was it was pushing, the endo was growing on the rectum, and it was pushing my rectum into my womb lining, so that when me and my partner were intimate, it would be like I was being stabbed in the stomach basically every single time. So it was quite affirming for me to know that all these things were happening, and I wasn't just going crazy. But it's really, really strange. So like stage 4 endometriosis means that it's more widespread. Stage 1 means that it's more localized in like one area. But someone who's got stage 1, it's not like a pain scale. It doesn't represent pain. Someone who's got stage 1 could be in more pain than a stage 4, because the stage 1, even though it's more localized, can be more invasive, for example, like if it was just on the rectum or something like that. So there's a lot of things that I'm learning. My friend who has it, who went to the same doctor, she throws up like 15 times a night when she's like going through her period. Turns out that apparently there's a chemical that is released by the tissue, and if that gets into your bloodstream, that's what makes you nauseous and sick, and unfortunately that's what happens to her. It doesn't happen to me. I don't throw up from it, but I do get really like nauseous. There's just so many different ways that people suffer.
What are some websites that you found really useful? I'll link them in the show notes as well, but what are some, because it can, stuff like this can be a minefield, can't it?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to grab the Instagram so I can get the names right. But I actually had a live chat with someone the other day, my friend Anna, who's had the 15 surgeries. Her and her friend Gabs have set up a charity called the Menstrual Health Project. And what they do is they aim to educate about endometriosis. So a lot of people focus on kind of the later stages after diagnosis and all of that sort of stuff and getting the support there, but they focus on the educational side of things. So they like create information booklets and stuff that you can print off and take to your doctors and talk them through everything as well. So they're called the Menstrual Health Project. But there's also a couple of like amazing pages that like I follow on Instagram as well. Like the Endo Space, Endometriosis Jenna, there's one called Endogram, and all of these people are sufferers of endometriosis who go through like all of this. But these are the sort of like images and stuff that kind of represent like what endometriosis feels like. But I really want to do a post this month about how endometriosis feels for me, like if it was on the outside. So I'm hopefully going to get someone to
a little graphic,
paint on me so that I can like bring like awareness to it. It's again very, very isolating thing. You do feel like you're on your own. And then I realized why I couldn't get off the sofa for 3 weeks of the month was because I'd be going through like a flare up, which is now I know that I have to be really, really gentle with myself. It's crazy, man. There's so many symptoms.
Yeah. And I think again, it's just that awareness piece, isn't it? Because I also think a lot of people don't go to the doctors. A lot of my friends actually I'm a big advocate of going to the doctors, and I'm like, there's something, let's sort it out. But a lot of my friends don't want to go, or they don't feel comfortable to go, or they don't feel like it's worthwhile going. And I just think it's that piece of raising awareness of it.
Absolutely. When I was on live with Anna the other day, because I've been gaslit by quite a few doctors, even though I'm an advocate of like going to the doctors, you just got to really make sure that you get the one that's going to listen to you. So Anna told me, because she, bless her, she's a bit of an expert, like now being in and out the hospital. I think it's something like doctors get in their training career for endometriosis 30 minutes. about endometriosis.
Okay.
I was like, what, a day or a month? They were like, no. She's like, in their whole career, they get information on endometriosis for 30 minutes. So this is like, what's the trouble is now, what people are doing is you'd usually go to the doctors, wouldn't you, and you get a diagnosis, and then you'd go to support groups, and you'd find other people that are like you can talk and get support from it. What people are doing, they're self-diagnosing through these support groups, going to the doctors and getting gaslit, not being listened to, and saying, like, I know that I have this. I'm literally been speaking to so many people about this, and it's like ridiculous that you're not listening to me. I had one doctor say to me, "You're too young for a laparoscopy. We want to put you on the pill for 2 years." And I was like, I don't want to be another statistic. I don't want to be that other like number in your chart to see whether it worked or not. And it was really like hard for me to advocate for myself. And I said, look, I need you to find me someone that's going to help me. Otherwise, you need to do your job, basically. I was trying to say, like, because he said to me, we can refer you for laparoscopy, but you're too young. I was like, I'm 24. I was like, I've been suffering since I was 10. There's something wrong here. He ended up coming back to me, but they were all through like gynecologists. And again, the same situation that I'd had before, would it be the internal scan? So I ended up just having to source my own surgeon, really. So advocate for yourself is the biggest thing I can advise. And periods shouldn't be painful. Like that's something that really, really shouldn't be. Like I thought that was normal, but it's not, like, at all.
I don't really suffer with periods, but I've noticed a difference as I'm getting older. The pain is just not unbearable, but it's a lot stronger than what it used to be. But I agree, like if you are suffering, like, go to the doctors or get into these groups and they'll help you, you know.
Absolutely. I dread every single time it comes around, like every month. It's so, like, I fear it every single time. So yeah, just
I think we've covered pretty much everything. Just before we go into the final question, is there anything else you wanted to talk about or cover?
No, just that anybody listening, you're amazing, and thank you for like listening to me. I do talk a lot, but I hope that today has like helped. Yeah, we've covered a lot of amazing topics, and I think a lot of important topics, and I really hope I haven't triggered anybody talking about things like calorie counting and stuff. It's just what's serving me right now, but I hope that you don't feel like you would need to do that. So I'm just hoping that you can stay true to yourself and stay on your journey and reach out for help if you need it.
Yeah, and I think on that, you know, we cover loads of different topics here, and I think if there are things that trigger people, like, please just open up and have a conversation either with us or with like someone you feel comfortable with, because I think it's the start of unraveling something or untwisting something, which I think is always helpful.
100% is so important. You have to self-advocate.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so final question that I ask everyone on the show is, what is your version of beauty?
My version of beauty is living authentically in your truth and being honest with yourself, very much relating back to what we spoke about earlier, about becoming familiar with your reality. Once you understand who you are, and that you don't want to change yourself to be somebody else, and you can live authentically as yourself, that is so beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you. And thank you, Sophie. Thanks for being vulnerable, and also thanks for having a voice and being an advocate, because it's so important, you know, to open up these conversations online and show a bit of reality, you know.
Absolutely. That's all I want, just people to feel related to. And if I can't be that relation for everyone, then I'm sure there will be someone out there that they can relate to. But I just hope I can create a safe space for people to be themselves and just feel like they're not being judged, or they feel like they're not comparing themselves. So yeah, no, I really appreciate you allowing me this platform as well to talk on these things. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, lovely.